Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Gyanamurtim Dvandvaititam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvam Ashadilaksham Ekam Nityam Bimulamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Triguna Rahitam Sadgurum Tan Namami. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We salute the leader of our souls, through whose grace our ignorance is dispelled, who is beyond good and bad, pleasure and pain, life and death, and all other pairs of opposites. We recognize that one is the only witness to the changing phenomena of this universe. May we, through that grace, go beyond darkness and delusion and realize the truth in this very life. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kamam Tamatmastam Yenupashanti Diraha Tesham Shanti Shashvati Netaresham. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. That one, the eternal among non-eternal things, the intelligence of the most intelligent ones, who, though ever one, nevertheless fulfills the desires of the many. That one, the enlightened souls realize as dwelling in their very self. To them belong peace and to none else. Om peace, peace, peace. Om Sahana, Om Sahana Vavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavahai, Tejasvi Navaditamastu Ma Vidvishovahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May Brahman, the reality, protect us. May Brahman sustain us. May Brahman illumine our thinking process. May we not find fault with each other, with the teachings, or with the world. And may what we study be a source of inspiration to us eternally. Om peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om Hari Om. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the SRV Associations. We are picking up our live streaming classes after a 5-week break, at least here in Hawaii. Although when we were visiting our San Francisco chapters and our Portland, Oregon chapter, we were live streaming at those locations both Saturdays and Sundays. I hope you were able to pick up those classes on the Svetasvatara Upanishad, which we've been going through for some 3 or 4 years now, and we're just at the very end of it, into the 6th chapter. Very beautiful teachings in that Upanishad, in all Upanishads. The Upanishads are called Vedanta. They're the final portion of the ancient Indian scriptures, which are the non-dual portion. Advaita, it's called, Advaita Vedanta. And those scriptures called the Upanishads epitomize that. They hold those I and my Father like teachings. I and my Father are one like teachings that we're barely familiar with here in the West, but which have been there at the heart of philosophy and religion for thousands of years, back to the time of Sri Ram and Sri Krishna, and earlier into the time of Samkhya Yoga even, which we'll study a little bit today. which is the yoga of varieties, and gives us a firm basis for the foundation of our universe. Our universe consists of 3 worlds, by the way, not just one. And those worlds are not out in space, but they're the kingdoms of heaven within you. And they consist very basically of a gross physical world, which would include all those planets in space and the suns in the nocturnal sky, and the world of our thought, which is a second world inside of us, where in dream state tonight we see, taste, touch, hear, and smell. We have 5 senses there too. But when all the senses go away, that is the 20 senses and the 20 elements, as Samkhya calls them, that is 10 senses, 10 elements, the elements that you use in your first state and your dreaming state, waking and dreaming, which Ramana Maharshi called dream number 1 and dream number 2, by the way. Then you go into a formless state called deep sleep, and there everything is gone, including your personality, your individual self. And those are called the 3 worlds. Actually, they're called jagat, means world, but you call it sthula jagat is gross world, and then Sukshma jagat is the subtle world of your thoughts. And then karana jagat is the causal world. And the causal world is like your deep sleep state. It's formless. But it's not the ultimate formlessness. There's a distinction between that and between the formlessness of Brahman, or Almighty Father, or Allah, or whatever name you want to call it by whatever tradition you happen to be following. So that's sort of the basic teaching of Samkhya Yoga. In other words, really, when you're talking about the subject today, we're calling it dissolving the mind stream. You might have seen on the flyer or on the email that you received. Dissolving the mind stream. So that's a great meditation, and you really have 3 words there, another triputi, triple teaching. It means Samkhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. Those 3 words sort of epitomize India's attempt at trying to introduce to you and to outline for you what these kingdoms of heaven within you really consist of. Because, let's face it, in Christendom we really haven't unwrapped Christ's teachings very much. We haven't put our attentions on the Almighty Father. We've put our attentions on the Son. And you get to the Father through the Son, no doubt, but in order to get to the Father through the Son, that is to non-dualism through dualism, you're going to have to turn the Son into a exemplar instead of a savior. If you turn the Son into a savior, then you'll always be bound by something. But the seers of India want you to be free. Ever free, never bound is the phrase which Swami Vivekananda used when he came here in 1893 at the Parliament of Religions and brought this Vedanta teaching to us. He's the secret of Divine Mother of the Universe. He's the herald or the harbinger of this non-dual truth, this ring of truth, which you'll see in a minute. And he brought to us these 3 words, really, Samkhya, Yoga, and Vedanta. And inside of yoga, he brought 4 yogas. That is the yoga of action, that's karma yoga. And then the yoga of knowledge, that's jnana yoga, and that's what you're going to have to sit and listen to for the next 3 hours. And the yoga of meditation, sometimes called Patanjala, because it was named after the father of yoga, Patanjali, or sometimes called Raja Yoga, the kingly yoga, royal road, 8-limbed yoga, 2 ashtangas. All those words really mean authentic yoga, which is much more than mere asana, I must say. And then a 4th yoga called Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion. So those 4 temperaments in people, studious, devotional, meditative or contemplative, and active, are seen. And all of us have all 4 inside of us, but one of them is usually predominant over the other 3. By that one, we pull ourselves up by our bootstrap. But Vivekananda's opinion here is that he would wish for more than just a one-sided spiritual aspirant. He would have that four-faced Brahma in all of us. You might have seen Shiva, pictures of Shiva and Brahma. They have four faces facing in all four directions. And that really has to do with being well-rounded, spiritually speaking. Not just a good karma yogi, which is hard enough, but a good meditator. It's the opposite side of the spectrum. You have action and inaction. In fact, Sri Krishna in the Gita says, they who understand action in inaction, and inaction in action, they truly see. We were talking about that this morning at satsang, when we sat here in the pouring rain, and the rain god was trying to obscure my words, but we still broadcast it around the world to a bunch of computers that were hooked in. And welcome to the live streaming audience, by the way, who is always with us. And so those four yogas need to be well honed in us. We should not only be able to act in the right spirit, but we must learn how not to act. And then, of course, we should learn what actions to do and what actions not to do. So there are really 3 or 4 aspects of karma yoga and meditation that are going on there. Then we need to study the scriptures and attend upon our teacher, commit to a path. Those are called 3 of the great 8 accomplishments in life, according to the father of this Samkhya Yoga. Kapila was his name, Lord Kapila. You go to India and say Lord Kapila, most everyone will immediately put the 2 5s together. Because they know Lord Kapila was the first and oldest known on record seer that did his homework in India, and that he affected everyone from the Lord Buddha and Buddhism on to yoga, Patanjali, and on to Vedavyasa, Vedanta, and everyone in between. In other words, between Rama and Krishna and Ramakrishna, who is our teacher here, those 2 bookends in time, everyone is affected by Lord Kapila's teachings and used it. The Shaivites, worshippers of Shiva, took those 24 cosmic principles, which I'll show you in a minute, and added 12 to make 36. 12 spandas, they called them. Spanda means a vibrating sphere. No doubt this is a vibrating sphere, but it's very grossly vibrating. Apparently so. But quantum physics has told us it's not really so yet. It's really just all flow of particles, isn't it? And what's keeping it together? God, devil, nature? Or is it just your 5 senses that's keeping it together, hooked to your mind? We'll talk more about that. These schools are called the mind-only schools. That is Yoga, Vedanta, Samkhya, Buddhism, Jainism. Other great systems think in terms that these 3 worlds have really come out of the great mind, and then they dissolve back into the mind, which is back to the name of this series of classes that we'll embark in over the next 6 Sundays. It's how to dissolve the mind. DMS, dissolve the mind stream. So in that 6 classes, I'm going to have to show you how Lord Kapila thought about dissolving the mind stream, and then how the father of yoga, his version of dissolving the mind stream, and then the father of Vedanta, Vedavyasa, his version of dissolving the mind stream. And then there's also other aspects of dissolving the mind stream, like dissolving the mind stream back into the word, Om. When Christ said in the beginning was the word, then he's talking about the beginning of all phenomena, because eternity has no beginning. You see, what's eternal has no beginning. So then if you're talking about in the beginning, it has to be an apparent beginning, because there's no beginning, middle, and end to anything. It's just a continuum. It's like a circle, snake swallowing its own tail and so forth, or the symbol for eternity. It's cyclic. It's all cyclic, and that was one of Lord Buddha's great contributions. And he sat on the banks of the river and saw how everything came around again. You see, he knew that everything was cyclic, and he wanted off the cycle. He was one of the greatest minds of all time come to this world. So dissolving the mind in Buddhism then would be another way in which we could look at it. And they'd want you to look at the 12 nidanas, the links, see, over a 3-birth scenario, and how to snap them by your 3rd birth and get free like he did. And that would be his version, in part at least, of how to dissolve the mind. Most of us are dissolving the mind every night in deep sleep. We're very good at it, but we're just not conscious that we're doing it. And that's sort of the foundation upon which I want to speak over the next 6 Sundays, is that many of us have this wisdom inside of us. Maybe everyone does. And most of us have it at a sort of intellectual level, and some of us have it at kind of an intuitive level. But the real breach that's going on here is that we're not teaching it to our children. We're falling back on conventional ways, where our words, our thoughts, our deeds are all conventionally based. They're not really based in spirituality yet. And that's why great souls like Vivekananda came amongst us, because he was living fully in that yoga. We call it yoga if you like, or in enlightenment, in moksha, in mukti, in koivalya. That's how the father of yoga pronounced it. Or in busho, the Zen Buddhists say. See, wherever tradition you go, you'll find a word for that non-dual state of awareness and beings that live in it. But the rest of us, which basically are evil, worldly, and striving, sort of 3 levels of strata of human society, you see. And then the enlightened. So there are very few, very rare in this world. Those that are moving towards the striving, towards doing sadhana, towards perfecting oneself, cutting oneself in the image, Christ said. Because he didn't want to be a savior either. He wanted to be an exemplar. It's no fun to have to go save people, see? Especially people who are already free, but who don't know they're free. See, it seems kind of pointless, doesn't it? I'm coming to save you, but you're already saved. What's your message? You're already free. Oh, see, you become sort of like a man sitting by a river trying to sell water. Oh, I think I'll go further upstream because the water might be purer, you see. So it's like Sri Ramakrishna used to say, my eyes have become red, blowing on the waning coals of your spiritual life. See, to try and keep a conscious mind set in the world, in a world that's going mad. Have you noticed? It's quite mad as the Kali Yuga progresses. You see, this 4th Yuga we're in. So to try and keep yourself even balanced is a difficult thing. What to speak of gaining some sort of enlightenment, some level of enlightenment, because enlightenment does have levels. They're called samadhis. Ultimate enlightenment, you might as well not even seek that because it's already you. But these in-between levels of enlightenment is all a matter of adding in bits of primary knowledge. Like Vivekananda said, and it's on our SRV emails quite often, secular knowledge only satisfies for a little time. Intellectual knowledge, only for a little time. It's only spiritual knowledge, spiritual wisdom that will satisfy for all time. So that's what you get when you begin pursuing Jnana Yoga, the teachings of the scriptures. And you find a teacher who can unwrap them for you, as I did, and you apprentice under that great soul. And yes, you learn some things from the outside in, but it's more a matter of awakening that which is always within you. So that's why they say it's like a flower blooming, or the mind awakening to something which already is. Shankara, the great Advaitin in 700 AD, said that this enlightenment is a principle already at hand. It doesn't come about by practice. It doesn't come about by transformation. It doesn't come about by evolution. None of these things can explain the word moksha or mukti. You can't get free, you are free. Your soul is free by nature. Be thee perfect. So coming to know that is the best foundation upon which to proceed. That is, you must do your practice. It's not that you can realize this very, very subtle and almost indistinguishable and unseen verity inside of you, this kingdom of heaven within you that's the highest, you're going to have to remove some of the layers of the mind. So you're going to have to dissolve some of these layers. Unfortunately, most of us are dissolving layers of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, fear, grief, pride of caste, pride of lineage, delusion. They're called the 6 passions and the 8 fetters. And we spend all our time putting out fires like that, you see. But before we got into the womb, we dictated our own life. We chose our parents. And we chose our country. And we had work to do, karma. See, karma doesn't just mean, oh, I have something to pay off here, or something that, I did wrong, you see. But there's just the natural karma from living and breathing. You live in a big polluted city all your life and you get lung cancer later. Was it really your fault? Or did you just go about your life and these things caught up with you? So this karma that comes around sometimes has to do with working through these false superimpositions. That's a good word in Vedanta. It's a false superimposition. The Sanskrit is vivarta, or sometimes they call adhyasa. It's something that covers. You see, Sri Ramakrishna used to sit in front of his students, 16 young boys or 12 young boys, you see, and he would go, now you see me, now you don't, you see. He would just hold up a cloth, see, and you see, that's all of life right there. That's the whole teaching in a nutshell. The reality is being covered over, that's all. Just strip the coverings off. And you're going to have to flex some subtler muscles in order to do that. And then you can live free and happy and content. See, just like, even amidst this, the madding crowd, you can live that way. And you should live that way. That's a dharmic lifestyle. And a dharmic lifestyle can turn to a divine lifestyle. And a divine lifestyle will turn to eternal life. And then you've got the realization of Buddha and Christ and Krishna and other great souls. They won't even return here to the body unless they do it under their own terms. They come here knowing this is all false superimposition, that the whole thing is a covering over formlessness. So this is why you would pick up a philosophy like Samkhya Yoga and use it to help you dissolve the mind stream. When we say dissolve the mind stream, it doesn't mean like, oh, I'm going away from this forever. That's Buddha. Gatam, gatam, paragatam, he said. I'm going on to the supreme goal. No relative goal will satisfy me. I have no hope for me anymore for the world. I'm gone and gone forever. See? So fine, later, for most of us, you see. We'll get to that later. Right now I've got this step-by-step gradual process of karma to deal with and some substance to put under my belt, you see, so that I have some grounds upon which I can attain that highest enlightenment. I'm going to have to connect the dots or follow the trail of breadcrumbs back inside. So when we say dissolving the mind stream, then it really is not just dissolving a bunch of gross negligence and violence and atrocities and things like that are on my mind all the time that call me out emotionally. I think it's ashobha is a word in Sanskrit. It means non-emotion. You'll see it amongst the seers and the sages and the saints. Non-emotion. They just don't react to anything. Father of Yoga said, if you react to something, then it's got you. Right there, you're bound. See? So you're going to have to withdraw from your cold or your flu. You're going to have to withdraw from the death of your child. You're going to have to withdraw from the atrocities of war and always withdraw to that superlative state within you. See, that state of non-duality. And the minute you react to any of those things, then you've made them real. Didn't Christ say, resist not evil? So how well has that been unwrapped, you see? Resist not evil. So we need to become very non-reactionary, very non-emotional, very balanced, very sattvic, there's a word in Sanskrit, balanced, very equanimous, upeksha, like the Buddhists say. So upeksha must be absolutely even-minded and equal, no matter what comes at us. And that non-reactivity, non-emotion is going to stand us in good stead for this dissolving of mind stream, because the emotions are going to be one level of your consciousness that are going to be hard to get through. See? If you start meditating and you see your last lifetimes and you see how you died, then, oh, poor me, you see. But what you're not taking into account is that, wait a minute, I'm witnessing my past lifetime. I must never have really died, you see. I must be looking upon a series of phenomena that happened to me when I was a body-mind mechanism. But it didn't happen to my soul. So then put the dots together, follow the breadcrumbs. All of a sudden, surprise, surprise, to find that all action takes place in nature, not in me. The soul is inactive. Brahman, Almighty Father, Tathagata Garbha, Allah, they're all inactive. You see, there's no action going on there, like your deep sleep state tonight. And you're perfectly happy there, I can tell you. If you could bring your consciousness into deep sleep, you would see all the bijams, seeds. It's out here, it's all objects made of matter. And here, it's all those same objects made of thought. And from in here, the thought object, came the tree object and the rock object. It all came from the mind, not from God. And nature couldn't do it by itself. It had to have some sort of intelligent medium, I think the word is matrix, in order for that to have come out of this. Purnamadaha purnamidam purnat purnamarachate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Everything that we behold with our five senses is finite. Everything that we cannot behold with our five senses is infinite. From the infinite, the finite has come. Yet being infinite, only infinite remains. Since that has come from this, that is, matter has come from thought, then, and the thought is infinite, then that must be infinite too. Have you found an end to leaves or trees or clouds or raindrops, bits of sand, planets in space? As Sir James Jean said, if you take 3 grains of sand and put them in a cathedral, that would be the density of the stars in space. That's how tightly packed the stars are in the physical ether. You see. I have some other nice quotes from him. He was a turn-of-the-century astrophysicist, along with Eddington and a few, who began to pick up this spiritual side that science can lean towards, more towards away from physics and more towards metaphysics, and hopefully beyond metaphysics to something much more satisfying, spiritual wisdom, as I was just saying. So with this kind of preamble, I'm sort of preparing you for at least 3 hours or 2.5 more hours with a break today in this dissolving the mind stream topic, which I think you'll find very fascinating. To get back to my main premise, though, I feel like we know this, although we could certainly add more essential bits of knowledge into it and practice it, but we're not really bringing it forward into life. See, there's this idea in India that Shruti, you hear it first, and then Shravana, and then Manana, you roll it around in your mind for a while after you hear it. And then Nidijasana, or Anubhav, sometimes they call it, you realize it. What a novel idea. See, that we should actually realize what we think about. See? But that's the teaching. It's a Triputi, Shravana, Manana, Nidijasana, or Shruti, Yukti, Anubhava. But the hidden part of the teaching is the fourth. You see, it's always the fourth. Out of the Triputi comes this fourth, and the fourth in this case is Sakshatkara. means you bring it back full into life. Vivekananda said, you cannot leave this Vedanta when I give it to you. Please don't leave it in books and temples. Please bring it out into life and spread it broadcast, because that's the only way we're going to prove it to ourselves. And so again, my contention, which I keep working around but not quite saying, is that we have to start telling our children, you're birthless and deathless. We can't anymore say, you have your 13th birthday, you see. We'd have to instead tell them, as many of you know, Namrichor Nashanka Name Jati Beda Pita Naiva Me Naiva Mata Janmaha Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Om. How would I raise my children, you see, to understand that? Namrichor, you have no death. Because Namrichor Nashanka Name Jati Beda. Jati, you never had a birth, so how can you die? See? How can you die when you're birthless? Doesn't make sense, does it? And Pita Naiva Me Naiva, I'm not your father telling you this. And your mother won't tell you that either, because you have no father or mother. And you have no friends. There's just one soul. It's here, amidst us, sharing. We're sharing it, our bodies, you see. Our bodies are offshoots of it. Our minds are offshoots of it at a higher level. And in it are all the bijams, all the seeds, all the mantras, all the deities, all the kingdoms of heaven within you. And that chamber of my Father has many rooms, you see. That mansion has many chambers. That house has many rooms. So all of these are to be noted by us. And if they're not, then they're just left in the realm of speculation, or at best maybe some intellectualism. See? But we have to, put our child up against the wall and make a mark, you see. A year later, make another mark. See? And he said, oh, I'm growing, I'm taller now. No, the self never grows. The self never shrinks. You can't add one iota to yourself, nor can you take one iota away from yourself. You cannot save the self. The self is always free. One scripture puts it very nicely, Natu Naiva Yoga, Sadanga Yoga Natu Naiva Shuddham, Guru Padesha Natu Naiva Shuddham, Mano Vinasha Natu Naiva Shuddham. The self is not made pure by the 8-limbed yoga or 6-limbed yoga. Self is not made pure by bowing and touching the Guru's feet. The self is not made pure by destroying the waves of the mind, dissolving the mind stream. It's already pure. Surprise! You cannot change it. It's immutable. Read my lips. Immutable. There's a few good English words for it. It's all pervasive. Sanskrit has hundreds of words for these kinds of principles. But in English, we're suffering lack of words for that. For anything that doesn't have to do with intelligence, science, money, fame, we got tons of words. Vivekananda came here and looked at us in 1893 and said, oh, they're a good people, basically, overall, but the only problem is their God is money. You've never seen so many instruments for taking care of the toilet. So many instruments for cutting the hair and fixing your face, and he went on and on. He'd never seen the like of it. He was absolutely aghast. But no words to explain, see, these very important higher wisdom principles. Sure, we give it to you. Buddha said it, Krishna said it. You can't describe the indescribable. But you can describe everything leading up to it. So there's a whole cross-section of things that you will come upon when you begin to attempt to dissolve the mind stream in meditation, that you will be able to fill in the gaps of your wisdom with. And all of a sudden, you'll wonder why it is that you ever forgot your true nature in the first place. Avidya. That's the first hell in my tradition. Hell isn't a place underneath you, and heaven isn't a place up in the sky. Those are all in your mind, as are God and devil, also in the mind. Mind is the father of everything. So, the first great hell would be avidya, ignorance of your true nature. And so if you came into the body devoid of ignorance of your true nature, then you're fecked, as the Irish say. You're just fecked. Or in Hawaii we'd call it focked. Isn't it? That's what a person in the body, in this day and age, in this realm, the sthula jagat, the gross world, has to look forward to, you see. So, dissolving the mind stream is going to be a practice which can step by step introduce you to levels of your own consciousness that you've overlooked. See? Overlooked. That's why we put out the book about it. I mean, we had the book signing just a few weeks ago in Portland, Oregon. It's called Dissolving the Mind Stream, or Dissolving Name, Form, Time, Space, and Causality back into the Great Self. And with that note, then, we should begin to look at some of these teachings. And I quite often introduce these teachings by these visuals. You see, they're called charts. I have some almost 250 of them now. Over the last year and a half, I've decided to embark on using plastic in a good way, you see. If such can be the case. So what I've done for you here is, and just a couple days ago, put this together to sort of remind the mind of these eternal laws of Samkhya Yoga. Maybe it'd be better to start with the laws themselves. I can leave that up for you to look at. Yes. Try something like that first. We showed this on the mainland. There are 5 great laws. Usually in India, everything comes in 5s. Everything proceeds in 5s. There's 5 elements. There's 5 senses. And then there's 5 subtle elements in Dream Tonight. There's 5 subtle senses in Dream Tonight. There's 20 right there, you see. And then add 4 or 5 to that, and you've got the mind. So the mind has intelligence, it has an ego, it has its dual mind, part of it, and it has thought. And then there is a great mind called Mahat, out of which all their minds have come. So that's 5. So basically, by a march of 5s, to put it very simply, it's called the quintuplication process, or if you want it in Sanskrit, panchakarana. By groups of 5s, you can dissolve the mind back to its source. But you have to know the 5s. Do you know the 5 elements? What's the grossest of all elements? Earth. What comes next in grossness? Water. And fire. And subtler?
Air.
What's subtlest of all? Ether. So that's what I mean. Collect them in your mind. This is how you got into the body, through the 5 elements. And the 5 elements are the furthest flung, furthest out part of your consciousness. They're not you. I think everyone in this room has realized that by now. I'm not the 5 elements, I'm not the body, kind of teaching. That's been there for millennia. Now, those 5 elements connect nicely, right? Earth connects to which sense? Smell. And where does water connect? Taste. And where does fire connect? It's an easy one. Sense of seeing. And where does air connect? Touch. And how about ether? You're using that right now. Do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? See, as they say, you see? That's vibration coming across the ether, striking your eardrum, causing some sort of reaction in here, hopefully a peaceful one, going down to your heart, you see, into the mind, down to the heart. Then you accept it and reject it, whatever. So ether is the subtlest of all elements. So now I'm supposed to, this is the gift of Kapila, the first 10 of the cosmic principles are called tattvas. Not so hard, really. People say, I don't want to learn 24 cosmic principles. But I'm sitting here telling you it's very easy. 5 elements, 5 senses, and they connect. In most ordinary beings, they're disconnected. You won't have to roam around very far outside of this room to find that disconnect going on, you see. I mean, put it at a collective level, human collective level, it's your disregard for the environment, right? If you knew that the environment, the 5 elements, came out of you via these mechanisms, then you would be much more reverential to it, you see. If nothing else, you'd know that it's eternal, that you can't really pollute the environment. You can't destroy an earth. There's too many of them, you see. It's impossible. Give it up. The ego is infatuated with power and destruction. So give it up. Let it be. Whatever mantra you want to use. Say, who am I, not why me? Because the karma will come around and get you from your disconnect, from your mistreating of things. So first let's connect things back together like that. And then you can connect. Then you have your waking state under wraps, right? But now you want to render your dreaming state lucid, see? Your waking state, okay, I have that under wraps. Now I've got it connected, I know everything has a purpose, and so forth and so on. Now I want to take all of that back into my dreaming state and make sense out of the second world. I have mastered the first world. And guess what that is? A. And then the dreaming state world is you. And the deep sleep state is M. What's that spell? Om. See, you are now the master of Om, you see. And those are called 3 matras, A, U, and M. Oh, everything from waking, dreaming, to deep sleep, gross, subtle, causal, outer, inner, and transcendent, past, present, and future, mother, father, and guru, everything fits into that AUM package. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, if you've heard of the Trinity, that's all Om. And if you, father of Om, Gaudapada says, if you leave those 3 matras, matra means a portion or an increment, if you leave them disconnected, then your life has been lived in vain. You don't know that your consciousness came down through the deep sleep realm into the thought realm, and it's in the thought realm that you created your body and then chose your parents and came into the waking state. And that when you so-called die, namrichur nashanka, nami jati beta, there's no birth, there's no death, there's just this dream life that's going on where I project myself into a body, and then at the end I give it up, and I should be able to just reverse the process. Sancharaha prati sancharaha. That's how the father of Samkhya Yoga put it. And I'm sure I brought that chart. Right there. Sancharaha prati sancharaha. There is a chain of transition of unmanifest and non-evolved nature into manifest nature and its evolutes, ending in the grossest evolute earth. There is also a reverse transition of evolutes, ending in dissolution into unmanifested nature. So all of these came spilling out, and here we are at the furthest flung part of it, and now consciousness is going to have to draw it back in to unmanifested nature. So that's why this, call it the ancient chest of consciousness. Have you been driving along the freeway lately and seen those self-storage places? I always get a big kick out of that, because I've got a theory of self-storage for them. You see, that is, where does everything get stored? You see? And so I subtitled it humorously, "The Secret of Spiritual Self-Storage." Why is everything eternal? Why is everything birthless and deathless? Now, when we say Nam Richor Nashanka Nami Jati Beda, I have no birth, I have no father, I have no mother, I have no death, how can we verify that? Or how can we explain what we mean by that? We mean that everything from nature to mind, body mechanism, to Ishvara, that is the highest rendering of God, the Jesus, the Buddha, the Krishna, and so forth, and even Maya itself, the great Maha Maya, is the Mahashakti, the mother of the universes. All of that is eternal. And when something is projected, it's not created. That's one of the first things you'd have to understand. When something gets so-called created, you should abandon that term. So you cannot tell your children anymore, God is a creator. That's passé. God is a creator. That's how Vivekananda said to tell your children. God does not move, God does not think, God is not a form, God does not have a name, God is not subject to cause and effect, karma. It's immovable, it's all-pervasive. Leave that alone. And in fact, you have to, because you can't touch that. See? You can't touch this, you see. It's untouchable. God is the greatest untouchable of all of us. There's just no way to bring God into name and form. Leave it where it is, pure and perfect, sacrosanct, like Buddha and others did. See? Now, let me deal with everything this side of Brahman, this side of the formless, this side of the immutable. That starts with very subtle principles and starts to operate under the auspice of Maya, at Mahamaya levels and at gross Maya levels. That is, basically, you've got this principle of name, form, time, space, and causation. There's another quintuplication, isn't it? That's how you describe Maya. It's not really illusion, as they used to say. It's not a good enough definition. It's actually a statement of fact as far as you're concerned, because here you are in it. And you're going to have to try and dissolve it. See, prove to yourself that you're not the body, prove to yourself that you're not the senses, prove to yourself that there's a state beyond waking and dreaming, prove to yourself that there's 4 yogas and they work to bring you enlightenment. All of this needs proof. Shravana, to hear it and to bring it into realization. Anubhava needs direct spiritual experience, and that's going to prove it to you. So all of India's systems are based upon sadhana. You have to practice them. And you need a good teacher and a good path for that. Well, India doesn't have one prophet and one book. It has dozens and hundreds of each in many different darshanas. That's why they call her the mother of all religions. So we have to look to India for those definitive systems and methods by which we can prove the immutable nature of everything, because it seems solid, it seems liquid, it seems gaseous. And water can take 3 forms right there, right? So water is already a complicated thing. It can freeze, it can flow as liquid, and it can become a gas. So we see these transformations going on in everything. But one thing doesn't transform. That's Brahman. That's the Almighty Father, or Buddha called it pragyaparam, the supreme intelligence, is not transformative. It's immutable, it's pure and perfect, and it's in everything, so it doesn't have to move, you see. It's all pervasive. But it's Anaranian, it's the subtlemost of the subtle, they say. That is, it'd be harder to find it than to think back on how many times you blinked since you entered this room. See? That's how subtle it is, you see, or much more subtle than that even. It's subtler than the breathing process that's going on. Puraka, Kumbhaka, Rechaka, Kumbhaka, puraka, rechak, in and out, held breath that's going on all the time, naturally, like a mantra. If you said a mantra with each one of your breathing processes, you'd probably be a master of mantra right about now. But you haven't brought your consciousness to the fact that you're breathing, which is why they want you to watch your breath when you start. But that's not enough. Going to have to connect the in-breath with A, held breath with U, and the out-breath with M. Everything has to be connected to the Word. So when we talk about in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, that's three different things we're talking about, that He was talking about. And you're going to have to connect those and understand what those mean. One means absolute reality. It's a chest of drawers that's so subtle that it's made of seeds, unseen seeds. The other chest of drawers is all about your thought, a whole world of thought in which you can spend days, if you want. Not just the scientist like Einstein thinking about his various scientific formulas and theorems, but the seer who, once he gets inside of that mind and connects it to the great mind, sees a flow of particles that are not atomic, but they're atmic. That is, they're not just made of matter, and they're not made of energy, and they're made more of thought. See, these are two beautiful quotes I was going to read for you by this scientist at the turn of the century. Mind no longer appears to be an accidental intruder into the realm of matter. We are beginning to suspect that we ought rather to hail it as the creator and governor of this realm. Scientists saying that? Somebody criticized that, Sir James Jeans, and said, "You're trying to make the scientists into some sort of an ideal." See, what a novel idea again, you see. Why shouldn't the scientist be a realized soul? It would be a true scientist then. See. He wouldn't just be a physicist, he'd be a metaphysicist. And he would know what's even beyond metaphysics. He'd have connected everything. Because, I mean, if you go far out, man, see, then you find out everything is made of atomic particles changing at a billionth of a second. Where does that leave you? It leaves you in emptiness. And that's why the Buddhists call this world empty. Shunyata. It's all empty of substance. How is it empty of substance? It can't fulfill you. The object made of particles gets lost. It gets stolen. You become bored with it. It stops working. I can go on and on. You see how the object cannot fulfill you. Yet everyone's attached to objects. And the most precious object of all is this body, you see. Precious. Me precious. Precious me. Talk about the ring of truth. See? That's a little joke I put in there for you. See? But what about the ring of deception, of delusion? In the darkness bind them. See? What about that ring? So you're going to have to snap those bonds. Strike off those kinds of fetters and begin to think freely like these great souls. So back to what I was saying, they spend all their time inside the Sukshma jagat. They come out here, they'll forget to tie their shoelaces and fall over and break their arm, you see. They can't function out here, you see, too far gone, you see. They're always in their mind. Well, what to speak of the genius, the seer has gone back into the mind and has seen a stream of particles that is so wondrous, so blissful, you see, ananda, you see. And he sees those particles flowing in streams, jnana matras, particles of intelligence, and he seizes one of them. And he takes it, and just like with an electron microscope splitting an atom, you see, he splits it with the atom of his third eye, and he splits that intelligent particle, and it implodes within him, and he's sent into his first samadhi. Savitarka, Nirvitarka, it's called. by Father of Yoga. First samadhi is that you find a kingdom of heaven within you. So this is just a good way of putting it that we're familiar with. All knowledge lies within you, Lord Vashishta said. If all knowledge lies within you, then you can go two ways with that. You can say, from this, that came, or that is made of knowledge. So when you're walking around in Maya, and you're unhappy, and you're imbalanced, and you're suffering, and all of this is made of matter, isn't it? And it's all against you. But you can be walking around here in bliss, in peace, in love, in light, in compassion. And if you are, then you're seeing all of this as your own knowledge. All of these things are your own wisdom. They're thought made manifest. They're ideas concretized. And who did the concretizing? Nature can't do it alone. And God is not a creator. So who does that leave? Who you going to call? You see? Little old me? See, am I responsible for all this? But how can my mind be responsible for all of this? Your individual mind is responsible for all of it in a stream of consciousness called the collective mind. And that stream of consciousness very much epitomizes this wisdom stream of particles that are flowing all the time. You don't see them because it's all happening too fast. You don't see the intelligent particle the same way you don't see the atomic particle. It's all happening too fast. That's solidifying so fast, at such a fast rate, by your own mind, that you've created the microphone and the instrument and so forth. You don't know how the process happened. So now you're going to have to cease, be still, and begin to concentrate on that. That's earth, right? It's a metal. So earth, how many different kinds of earth can I think of? All the metals, all the woods, all the chemicals, all the planets in the sky. Every different way in which I can possibly meditate on earth, I'm going to have to meditate on earth so that I come to know earth. And when I know earth, then I can connect it to the sense of smell. And I can say that earth came out of smell, and earth goes back to smell. Why do you think they meditate on their nose? Have you ever wondered? Is it just about nice fragrances? Or are they actually trying to dissolve something back into its cause? See, the effect back to its cause. And you're going to do the same thing with water. And somewhere along there you'll find out you died in a landslide, or you drowned. See? Why one dog jumps in the water and one won't. See? Why fear is there. There's so many things you'll find out about the process that all of a sudden you'll be able to master. The loss of fear is a matter of knowledge. When you know a thing, then you've mastered it, and fear goes away. Fear is all about not knowing. And the worst fear of all is my death, you see. So I said avidya, lack of knowledge, is the first of all hells. So the one thing I might know, and I might not know a lot of things, but the one thing that I don't know the worst is my own self, you see. If I knew my own self, then I could start from the top and come down with this mind stream. I could do a projecting the mind stream meditation. But since I'm finding myself out here, believing in matter, and don't know how to connect it to my thoughts, then I'm going to have to reverse everything and take the trouble to dissolve everything back inside to its source again. And every form of meditation, I don't care what it is going to have to accomplish this in one way or another. If you say, oh, I just like formless meditation, Babaji, good. Well then, let me see you do it, you see. Sit down and start going to formlessness, you see. So, you sit down and all your thoughts come. That's if you've mastered the objects. If you sit down and, what's that smell? Oh, dinner's ready, you see. Then your meditation is effect right away, you see. So, who can jump to formlessness? So here's a way to jump to formlessness. Anything that impedes you, anything that gets in your way, anything that obstructs you, you're going to take it to task, you're going to know it. And then you're going to put it back into the chest of drawers out of which it came. Now, when Divine Mother of the Universe does this, she does it on a cosmic level. See, there she is, and Shushti, Sthiti, Laya is going on all the time. You can hardly tell the difference between her and nature. See, sometimes she's called Mahaprakriti, the great nature, because she has dominion over all things. That's her chest of drawers there, you see, the three worlds. And it's emanating out of consciousness, and then it's brought back in. And this can happen in 4,320,000,000 years in a cycle, or it can happen in what we call a yoga or a Mahayoga, 4 yugas stacked on top of each other, or it can happen in a breath, or it can happen in a 24-hour period when you go from waking, dreaming to deep sleep and back to waking again. All of that is constantly a form of dissolving and reinventing, dissolving and projecting. So she's master of projection, sustenance, and withdrawal. Shishti, Sthiti, Lai. Sometimes they sing about that in beautiful ways. Kokono Purusha, Kokono Prakriti, Kokono Shunya Rupare, Kokono Purusha, Kokono Prakriti, Kokono Shunya Rupare, Kamalakanta Baba Bhavi Sahaja Paga Ore, Kamalakanta Baba Bhavi Sahaja Paga Ore Shama Makiyama Kalore Shama Says, often I wonder, is my mother really black? I would call her really black. Sometimes she seems green, sometimes red, other times white. See, my mind has become enlightened by meditating upon all that she is. But sometimes she appears as Kokono Purusha, as the soul, Purusha. Kokono Prakriti, sometimes as nature. And so I get confused. Is she consciousness or is she nature? Well, this is the beautiful thing about this great matrix. Actually, the word for mother is matra, ma. I mean, all the M words that you can think of really have to do with mother, matrika stotrams and things that they put out. Hymns, the Divine Mother of the Universe. So she, with her sleight of hands, makes all of this happen. You see, consciousness moves away from its source and begins to take on forms. It comes out of seed form first, called bijams. There's that first drawer, right, called the deep sleep form, or you could call it the karana jagat. That's the causal state. Think of it this way: if thine eye be single, you shall know the truth. So here's this single eye, we call it a chakra, right? Of the 6 chakras and the 7th chakra. 6th chakra is 2-petaled, so it has an outward going tendency and an inward going tendency. Souls, by the billions, are dissolving back into that Om, and then when they want to reincarnate, they're coming out of it in a stream. And no time is passing while this is happening. See? There's no time in the word. It proves that everything is in the moment, you see. When you're out here in the body, everything is dragging, isn't it? Molasses in wintertime, you see. Oh, I gotta wait so long to get that job, or whatever, you see. But you don't realize the speed at which the mind moves. Mano javitvam, it's lightning swift. That you can disappear from this state into dreaming just like that, in a matter of seconds. And you can dissolve the dreaming state just like that into the deep sleep state and go into the curtain of nescience, go into a cloud of unknowing. You're actually very peaceful, very blissful, very happy and content in deep sleep, but you don't know why. You don't know that you're in the realm of seeds. So all objects as seed essences. That's that first drawer in her chest. What I'm saying about this is that she stores everything in this chest. So, the dinosaurs are there, and when the dinosaurs became extinct, they just went back to this chest of drawers. She just ironed them out, put them in there as ideas, the seed dinosaur, put them back there, and when the next cycle comes around, she'll bring them out, shake them out, maybe re-iron them a little bit, and put them into manifestation again. So the main crux of this teaching is there's no birth and there's no death. Everything's eternal. When you see something disappear from form, like your great-grandfather, it just went to the realm of the ancestors, and that realm of ancestors is inside of you. And it's right there in that realm of ideas, because your great-grandfather probably didn't get enlightened, not if he was a Westerner. And so he probably didn't go back very far into himself. He probably didn't realize his true self like Buddha did and never return here again. See. Give it up completely. Renounce it absolutely. Every great soul has renounced the world. There have been plenty of good souls, high souls, intelligent souls, but they've never renounced the world. The great souls renounced the world because the world is to be renounced. It can't fulfill you. It's empty. And embodiment is contended by birth, growth, disease, old age, decay, and death. How happy can I be here? You see. Lust, anger, greed, envy, jealousy, pride, and delusion are my playmates at recess. How happy can I be here? How content can I be here? Why shouldn't I live in my eternal self and let all of this just move in nature? All actions take place in nature, Krishna said, not in the self. Shouldn't I be the witness of all this? And therefore be an exemplar for others to be a witness for all this? Is it because I'm getting enlightenment that I'm selfish? I said that to my mother once. I said, I really admire the monks. She said, oh, they're selfish people. So I had to come back with her like 5, 6, 7 years later and began to read her the scriptures of India until she remade her thinking about what monastic beings are like, why they give up the world, and why they get enlightened, and why they reach the peace eternal, why they have bliss. So this great chest, everything gets stored in it. And I'm sort of coming from the top down because I was mentioning a third eye. If you want to look at it, the Kundalini system, you come down the chakras. It's really saying the same thing, but by another system. The first 3 chakras are eating, excretion, earth, smell, right? And then sexual organs, water, creation. And that's the second chakra, right, at the genitals. The third chakra is right here at the gut. You're talking about digestion, you're talking about the fetus, you're talking about the ancestors coming in and out of this center by hundreds and thousands of nerve endings you can't see. There are enough nerve endings you can see in there if you were to dissect a pregnant woman. But those subtle nerve endings and nerve passages you can't see are by the hundreds of thousands. That's how souls are moving into the fetus, you see. And how they get out of the body, too. And those very same network of nerves you're using to go into dream tonight, when you abandon the body, and it becomes as if comatose, you see, and doesn't breathe for minutes at a time. And then when you get out of dream state, you use another subtler set of nerves, and your mind's consciousness passes into a formless state, you see. It's just going from 3 drawers in her great chest. And you're doing it in a 24-hour period, just like that. So this chest of drawers signifies everything in seed. When you get a mantra from a teacher, it gives you a bijam, like Om. It's the most famous of all bijams. Om is the bijam for formlessness. if you have the word Om in your mantra, then pretty likely you're going to have an experience of formlessness at some point. I'm talking about conscious formlessness, not deep sleep formlessness tonight, where you don't know you went formless, and when you wake up you don't know where you've been, see? Or when you come into the fetus and get ejected as a little baby, you see, you don't know where you came from. How long is it going to take you, see, to remember prenatal experiences? What to speak of natal experiences? Natal experiences aren't going to be very pleasant. Oh, I was helpless, couldn't brush that mosquito away from my face, see. I had to depend upon another being for my very life, see. But what about prenatal experiences? Before I even chose my parents, you see, where was I? Who was I then? And how masterful was I? What kind of choices did I make? See, Dalai Lama made 14 good choices. You get my gist? 14 conscious lifetimes for the soul. So can I get that masterful at painting the palette of my future births? Blank first, and then I start painting them in. What do I want to achieve in this lifetime? How do I get to it? Maybe that final palette will say, transform, transcend all life. All worlds, both here and there, do I renounce. All heavens, all earths, all hells, all hopes and all fears. Thus cut thy bonds. That's how Vivekananda said it. Cut thy bonds. Or Namrityur Nashanka Name Jati Beda. I have no birth because I have no death because I never had a birth. So I am the eternal Shiva. Chidananda Rupaha Shivaham Shivaham. Chidananda means the Rupa form of consciousness. I am the form of consciousness, not the form of matter. And that's what I had to realize. See? I'm not just the tip of the iceberg. I'm the bulk, too. The tip here, the great mind, intellect, ego, mind, the 5 subtle elements, the 5 senses, and the 5 gross elements, all of these are the tip of the iceberg, and you'll find them in these first 2 drawers, the subtle and the gross worlds. It all came out of a thought. Or if you want to read it this way, James Jean says, the universe begins to look more like a great thought than a great machine. This is a scientist speaking. Now, this is called new insight, you see, in the West. But this is millennia old. It's been realized and is being practiced by souls, great souls that come in and out of the body. She says herself, the Divine Mother, Bhagavati Devi, in her own scripture called the Srimad Devi Bhagavatam, she puts it this way: at the time of the great dissolution, I withdraw all beings and worlds back into my unmanifested prakriti, seed form. Then I myself disappear into the formless Brahman. When the dance of Maya begins again, that's hundreds and thousands of years later in a cycle, I loose all things forth into the realms of becoming. All the while, nothing is born, nothing dies, nothing is created, nothing gets destroyed. So the appearance of things has completely enchanted us. We're spending all this time in our life, whether we be common, ordinary Joes, or whether we be great metaphysicians and scientists, we're spending all our time on the appearance of things. Very seldom a soul all of a sudden says, I think I'll look beyond the appearance of things, and I'll find that the tree is really the illusion tree, and it's really the atomic particle tree that is there. See? And they'll stop there. And so they've stopped at this drawer. But if they looked deeper in their meditation and they took the tree and said the tree is earth, it's a type of wood, and they began to connect it, and they connected the tree to the sense of smell and to its origin, to its cause and effect, then all of a sudden they're saying, oh, I see, the tree is the Buddha nature tree. There's the physical tree, there's the atomic particle tree, and then there's the Buddha nature tree. The Buddha nature tree is its essence. See? It's got hundreds of seeds outwardly, but it's only got one seed inwardly. That's its treeness. And it's the same with silver, it's got its silverness. And it's the same with gold, it's got its goldness. And it's the same with men, it's got its manliness. And with women, it's got its womanliness, you see. That's the essence of a thing. And that's what we're not seeing. Oh, we can talk about it nicely enough, you see. Oh, you have some essence inside of you, you see. But we never bother to go realize it. And in order to realize it, to fill in the gaps of our knowledge, in order so that realization will become absolute assurance. I will have the courage of my convictions. And I won't take any wooden nickels anymore. There will be no masquerades anymore. I will cut my bonds and be free as I am, in my true nature, ever free, never bound. So, if everyone from the scientist in the Western sense to the Great Mother herself is talking about this dissolution process, then we ought to become aware of it. We ought to become aware that we're doing it every night and every morning, naturally, as if we were breathing naturally, you see. AUM of Om, inward, held breath, out breath, waking, dreaming, deep sleep. These are called triputis. And along with the quintuplication process, they've been known from time out of mind in India. And they've been passing them along from family to family. The seers, called the rishis, taught them to their children. The minute that they could understand words, see, don't forget where you came from. You're not growing. What a silly idea. You're not evolving. Mankind doesn't evolve. Forms evolve and devolve. You stay the same. My teacher once told me, oh, I see the scientists are trying to get me to believe that in order to see my ancestors, I have to go to the zoo. See? What about Krishna's ancestors? Ram's ancestors? What about Kapil's ancestors? I had it somewhere here, but yeah. Kapila was called an incarnation of the great mind, or the cosmic egg, Hiranyagarbha. He says he's one of the 24 major incarnations of Vishnu in India. Hiranyagarbha created the great mind, and it incarnated as Lord Kapila, who passed the wisdom on to Asuri, then to Panchasika. That's why I put this up there. This is the line of founder of Samkhya to Asuri, to Panchasika, and then all the way down to slightly more current times. But that was what I was about to say. According to the Tantric scriptures, there were 71 teachers from Kapila of Samkhya to Shankaracharya, and 76 since Shankara. Around 1400 BC, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad mentions 66 generations of teachers up to that time. Patanjali stated that there were 84,000 rishis up to his time, all conduits of the perennial knowledge through cycles of time. So if you're talking about going back from Samkhya, Samkhya's beginning, 84 generations, and you can see how old it is, how ancient it is. And that's what they were teaching their children. My conclusion in that sense is that if you know the 24 cosmic principles inside out, and you memorize them, and you meditate on them, you'll never be born in ignorance ever again. Krishna says that in the Gita. There's no person ever ignorant, ever born in his family. That is the family of that one who knows the 24 cosmic principles. So this is something that needs to be brought out, you see, and shared. It's the proving ground of spirituality. You can't just jump to spirituality and all of a sudden pretend, you see, oh, we're enlightened, we're enlightened. As Vivekananda said, we all say, oh, we're so great, but we're all idiots, that's what we are. That's a quote from Vivekananda. We're all idiots until we fill in the gaps, till we connect the dots, till we follow the trail of breadcrumbs back inside of us, until we can transcend this chest of drawers and not be born again unless it's in freedom. They asked Vivekananda, should a man be born again? He said, I certainly hope he will not until he can do so in full consciousness. Say 14 times, or 16 times, or how many times does Krishna come back? Is it 84 times Kapila was reborn again as a manifestation of Vishnu? How many times can I come back, you see? Then I'll have to come back in consciousness every time, in full consciousness. In order to do that, I'm going to have to know the steps of my father, the chambers of my father's mansion, you see. I can't just leave it to chance. I might be born some lifetime off-center, you see. I might be born in America in the second millennia. Oh my God, you see. How am I going to get out of that? They're a thoroughly materialistic society, whose God is money, whose religion is in bed with politics. See? That's going to be a disease without a remedy, as they sing. So we have 5 minutes before the break, and we have introduced this chest of drawers that Divine Mother holds. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, there's an old woman who lives on the beach in a hut. She walks along the beach, and every day she collects little flotsam and jetsam off the beach, you see, bits of glass and sea foam and shell. She takes it home and she's got it in this huge jar. And so on the beach is just an infinite collection of that stuff, see. And his implication is that what she's got in that jar she's going to use for her next creation. See. That's Divine Mother, is that old hag walking along the beach, you see. And she's picking up certain things. Oh, this will be good for the next yuga. This will be good for the next Mahayuga, you see. And then she's going to just loose them. She says here, I loose them forth into the realms of becoming. You would much rather be in the realm of being, you see. Let the realm of becoming do what it will, but you must stay in the realm of pure being. Being and becoming, if you have your choice, make sure that you choose the former. I am, not I will be. Because anytime you wander away from that I am, then you have fallen into the realms of relativity. There are some realms of form that are very beautiful, called the realm of rishis, the realm of the Trinity, the realm of the gods and goddesses. Those are all very beautiful realms, no doubt, but they still have form in them, which is why the Vedantist is not interested in heaven. They don't seek heaven, or a post-mortem emancipation. They know that freedom is here and now, and they want it here and now. And that here and now is going to be their self, which is unchanging, and everything else will rotate around that. If everything else is cycle, let me be the central point and let everything cycle around me, because that's actually what's happening, but I'm just not aware of it. I'm sending my consciousness out like flotsam and jetsam off a beach into a jar of this cycling propensity in me. I have a deep samskara in me for rebirth. That's how Lord Vashishta put it. He says, what is the worst of all diseases? Sri Ram asked him, because he was Sri Ram's teacher when he was a teenager. The first and foremost of all diseases, Vashishta answered, is rebirth, because all other sufferings come from that. So this is how important they take it, and they have taken it back to way before Krishna's time, in the time of Sri Ramchandra. That's important, how important they believe it is to stem this cycle of rebirth, nip it at the bud, you see. and never be reborn again in ignorance. If you can be reborn in wisdom as much as you like, because you're never born when you have wisdom. You just projected yourself. Like octopus, sends out 8 arms, right? Feels the ocean bottom, you see. So you're there at the center and you send out one of your arms, that's called a body, you see. Feel one of these worlds with it, you see. And you just retract it, you see. Maybe you feel fire, you get burnt. You see. Pull back quick, it's called a quick death, you see. I died young. Maybe that soul found out that the world is unreal and gave it up like that. What am I doing here? See. So this chest of drawers, this ancient chest of consciousness, is the hub of the 3 worlds, the gross, the subtle, and the causal. And those 3 worlds correlate with your waking, dreaming, and deep sleep state. That's the essential thing right there. Underneath it all is Shesha, the great serpent. He epitomizes this primal residue that's left over after everything has dissolved. See, it's this underlying. He lives in the Ekarnava, the ocean of essence, see, where all things are held. Milk ocean, they call it. And he's this emblem for eternity, that everything is. Put it either way on a t-shirt you want. You could say, there is no such thing as nothing. Nothing doesn't exist. See, that's a good t-shirt. See, nothing doesn't exist. Or you can just put everything is. Depends on if you like the path of iti iti or you like the path of neti neti. If you like to say everything is, or I'm going to dissolve it all with my mind stream, you see, back to formlessness like Buddha. Both paths are good. Everything is, nothing is not. Either way you look at it, the one truth remains. Life shadows fly, one truth remains. Life is a many-colored dome that stains the pure white light of reality. So this mind and this life created this dome with many-colored glasses, the poet Shelley said, and the white light of reality exists outside of it, that is deep within you, and it shines on this mind. It turns into different fragmented colors, different bodies, different worlds, and different things growing, like bacteria. From very, very causal to very, very subtle, and all the way down to the gross realms of becoming, where we find ourselves today and where we will find ourselves on break today, when we move about this gross world. Drinking water that connects to our tongue, and eating prasad food that connects to our nose, hearing each other talk that connects to our ears. Hopefully all of that connecting to the central hub of consciousness, she herself, mother of the universe. So here I release you on break for 10 or 15 minutes. Come back for the last hour afterwards. Thank you. Swagatam, welcome back to the second half of our first Dissolving the Mindstream class. Today centering around Sankhya, and maybe next week maybe a little overlap to continue some of the Samkhya teachings. I wanted to go through the tip and bulk of the iceberg chart with you a little bit because that's a very important Sankhya teaching too, to show how much is buried underneath or behind in these chest of drawers. But to finish up this chart that is the new chart, and the first time I am teaching it, the first time anyone's seen it, except my wife who proofed it for me at the end. I think we've done most everything except these quotes. We can read them and they'll kind of give us a final evaluation of it. Krishna says in the Gita, "Verily I have my manifested form and my unmanifested form. Beyond both is my supremely unmanifested form." So he's talking in threes again, isn't he? And basically the manifested form is earth, air, fire, water, ether, five senses, that kind of. In fact, in his time he was calling it Puryastika body, the eightfold body. It had to do with mind and senses. Threefold mind and senses at that time was the teaching. But the mind stretches back up into the unmanifested form. That's mind itself and thought, chitta. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Have you ever heard that statement? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. That means Sloka 2 of the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali, father of yoga, that getting into union with divine reality is based upon quelling the mind's waves. Mano vinasha, vinasham, you see, so vinasha means to destroy, so you quell the mind's waves in meditation. Very hard to do, but it is the dissolving the mind stream. So you might be able to do that in a thrice, but the meditation that we're talking about here with 24 cosmic principles, you might have to do that slowly at first, 5 by 5, and see how they connect with one another. To me, it seems to be much more substantial and much more thorough a way of stopping the mind and dissolving it back into that light which you will begin to feel, or that peace that passes all understanding, or that bliss, ananda. My joke about ananda is that, see, if I were had to deliver a telegram, see, and I went to a monastery, and the telegram was addressed to Mr. Ananda, then I'd walk in the room with this 1,000 monks, and I'd say, "Here's a telegram for Mr. Ananda," and 1,000 people would step forward because their last name was all Ananda, Brahmananda, Shivananda, Turiyananda. So I'd be in a quandary about which Ananda to give it to, you see. So that bliss that's inside of you, that so many people have even named themselves after, their very last name consists of that. I met a person the other day who came up and he said, "Hi, who are you?" I said, "I'm Babaji." And he said, "Oh, who are you?" And he said, "I'm Chewy Love." Chewy Love. I felt like saying, "Oh, I'm Crunchy Compassion. How are you?" So on the big island, Hawaii, you'll find it all, right? So all of those things that are back within you are being impeded by this host of 24 cosmic principles. 5 elements, 5 senses, those 10 in your dream state. That's 20 right there. And that is 2 of the chest of drawers right there that is the secret of her eternal life. Everything is eternal. Nature, Maya, the soul, God, everything is eternal. The only thing that may not be eternal is Maya. When you achieve enlightenment, Maya will disappear. But it tends to come dancing back. Sri Ramakrishna had his friend, his disciple next to him at this big tank. See, and there was a green scum over it, so he reached down and he spread the scum. And they looked and they could see themselves. But as they watched their reflection, see, the green scum just came dancing back. And he said, "Well, that's like the covering power of Maya. It's neither sentient nor insentient. It's not devilish. It just covers. That's its nature. It covers." And it also has a distorting power, he went on to teach. distorting power makes things look other than what they are. Like the tree looks like a tree, but it's really atomic particles. So there's a covering power operative here too. So you have those two forms of Maya that you have to sort of deal with if you're a yogi or a yogini. You want to deal with the covering power, avarana shakti, and the distorting power, vikshepa shakti. But there's a third power. Are you surprised that there's a three? Called prakasha shakti. It means revelatory power. So in everything, there's a revelatory power. So if you're stumped by the tree and you're trying to see what it really consists of, and you say wood, and then you say atomic particle, and then finally you say, use the revelatory power to say, oh, I see, it's the seed tree. It's the thought tree. Right there in that chest of drawers. Everything has come from a thought. The universe begins to look like a thought more than like a machine. Forever we've been seeing Western science particularly, oh, it's just a fruit and leaf and river and canyon producing machine. Now we think it begins to look more like a thought. Now there's a great turning point for the Western consciousness. To turn back towards the east. The sun rises in the east, it sets in the west. So if that perennial wisdom that has come from India sets in the minds of a Sir James Jeans or an Eddington or a nuclear physicist or somebody who's beginning to think in terms of the mind having a great role in all of this, then all of a sudden the mind becomes, or it begins to appear like that's really the creator of the universe. He uses the word creator, though we would say no, projector. You can't get something out of nothing, which is the whole secret to this whole chart, is you can't get something out of nothing. You can't create a soul out of dust, for instance. That's metaphoric. Take that metaphorically, please. What you want to take literally is that that everything is. Sarvosmi, that's the great mantra in India. It's just one word, sarvosmi, everything is. So nothing is not, if you want to turn it back on itself. There's no such thing as nothing. I know a quantum physicist who just passed away, a friend of ours, who had a t-shirt that said nothing doesn't exist on it. And, well, he was not a quantum physicist, but he was a Swami for a while, and then he was also an astronomer. But nothing doesn't exist is the point, see. So everything is means that I must validate everything. I must give it all its place in the scheme of things. The kingdoms of heaven are within you. My Father's mansion has many chambers, and so forth. So when Krishna says, I have my manifest form, then that's these bodies and nature. In the Uddhava Gita, that's quoted out of the Bhagavad Gita, but in the Uddhava Gita he says, I have many cities, Purushas. I have 1,000-legged cities, I have 8-legged cities, I have 6-legged cities, and 4-legged cities. My favorite city is a 2-legged one. That's you. See? Krishna's favorite city is you, see, the 2-legged, who has that mind with all that intelligence in it, and out of that mind has come this world. Individual mind, collective mind, and yes, there's a third, cosmic mind. Cosmic mind, we tend to call that Trinity. Or as I was just saying, Hiranyagarbha. There are beautiful songs about that. When they see the Trinity in deep meditation, it would be sort of like meditating on your ishtam. You know what an ishtam is? An ishtam is a chosen ideal. The word is also Ishvara, there it is there. And out of the Ishvara comes the avatars, the great souls that come to earth. I don't mean that in the Hollywood sense either. Avatar is a sacred Sanskrit word. So when they think about Ishvara, or the chosen ideal, they compose songs like this. Chintaya mama manasa hari chidgana niranjana Chintaya Chintaya mama manasa hori chidgana niranjana kiva anupama bhati mohama murati bhakata hridaya ranjana kiva anupama bhati mohana murati bhakata hridaya ranjana Chintaya mama manasa hori chidgana niranjana. Meditate, O mind, on Lord Hari, the pure, the ever-perfect, eternal consciousness absolute. What incomparable radiance is his. How fascinating is his wondrous form. How dear is he to all his devotees. So, written by a being who had seen the Ishvara form inside. Very rarely you'll see them outside. How many of us have seen Christ or Buddha walk up, you see? Very rarely does an avatar descend to earth. Probably roughly every 500 years, I would say. And maybe those are only the ones that are known. But that great concentration of realized consciousness is always existing inside. In the classic Mindstream, and I probably would show this eventually anyway because it's the main chart in the book, you dissolve the five senses, or five elements into the senses, right? And the five subtle elements into the five subtle senses. Then you dissolve that into the subtle elements, that into the life force, and that into the mind in its fivefold nature, that into cosmic intelligence, where the Trinity is, and the Trinity you dissolve into Om, and Om into yourself, see? And then that into the ocean of Brahman. And in this reverse process, that's how a being's going to manifest, take on a body. They'll come out of non-dual awareness, hear the Om, come through that petal, that one of those two petals outward, then pass through the realm of the Trinity that we were just singing about, and then from the Trinity into the begin to form its own mind. Out of the cosmic mind it'll form the collective mind and the individual mind. When the collective mind and individual mind kick in, then you're talking about karma bandha, worlds of karma, worlds of name and form that are beginning to congeal and get denser and denser. It's still in the realm of a thought, though, everything. And then with the life force, the prana it's called, you're going to travel that network of nerves, subtle nerves. Say, Om Ara Eva Ratanabal Samhatra Yatra Nadyaha Sha Eshon Charite Buhuda Jaya Manaha Om Mityevam Jayasa Atmanam Svastivaha Paraya Tamasaha Parastat. See, basically, there, within the heart, where hundreds and thousands of nerve endings connect, like the hub, like the spokes of a chariot wheel at the hub, abides the Atman, yourself. Meditate on that self as Om. And Godspeed to you in crossing over to the farthest shore beyond all darkness. Svastivaha paraya tamasaha parastat. Tamas is darkness. So, beautiful quote out of the Svetasvatara Upanishad, which actually declares that there are hundreds and thousands of subtle nerves that connect to the heart. Not the anatomical heart. To the heart, the Atman. There, the heart, in the heart, it abides the Atman. Stationary, but becoming manifold, if we were to literally translate to Sanskrit. It's stationary, but it becomes manifold. In other words, it's inactive, but it can take on the illusion of action. And that's her work, you see. Her sleight of hand causes the insentient to seem sentient, causes the the unseen to be seen, and vice versa. That's the covering and distorting power of Maya that's operative. So when you enter there and you begin to think in terms of networks of nerves and life force, then you know how ancestors come to humans and humans go back to ancestors. Buddha saw that under the Bo tree. He sat for 49 days or so, you might have heard. Did his own dissolving the Mindstream process, and he saw the dynamics of how this works. This works. And this works. Saw the tip and the bulk. Saw the three doors, however you want to put it. And when he saw that, he said, "Oh, architect of the many worlds, I have now seen you. Now that I have seen you, I will not build bodies anymore. I will not build bodies of stone. I will not build bodies or houses of wood. I will not build houses of flesh and bone. I will not build houses of wise thought. Architect of the universe, I have seen you." So after that many times, I mean, it takes some 40 days, doesn't it? Muhammad 40 days, Christ 40 days, Buddha 40 days. You have to go into the wilderness for 40 days, you see. The wilderness could be into a cave or it could be into your own room for a retreat. See? And you take this thing to task that's bothering you. This bondage, this heaviness, this weight, these passions, these fetters, these impediments, and you snap those bonds. And you can do it with the Dharma. See, this is the Dharma. This is the ancient perennial teachings. It's higher than morality and ethics. If you want a moral law, it's called "thou shalt not kill." But if you want a dharmic law, it's "thou cannot kill." Read my book, you see. It's impossible to kill anything because it was never born. You're not thinking right there, you see. It was projected, and a thing that gets projected gets withdrawn. Does a wave die when it takes on a form? Comes up out of the ocean, plays a little bit, takes on the word name and the form, and then the ocean's telling you this all the time. You're sailing it, you're surfing it, you're mining it, you're fishing it. But come, I will make you fishers of men, you see, not fishers of fish. Didn't you know what the ocean's been saying to you all this time? Is that nothing is born and nothing dies, that everything is. So let's at least put that doubt and fear away, you see, that we are eternal beings, that the Atman is pure and perfect, and be thee pure and perfect as thy Father in heaven is perfect. Let's put that one to rest for all times. Let's get rid of that age-old doubt and then step forward and live as we are. Treat each other as the eternal Atman. As I have loved you, then you love others, he said. See? So when you can't really love a person until you see them as the Atman. If you think of them as a body-mind mechanism, that's going to go. That's going to fade. That's going to die. You have to think of them as that eternal self. And when you do, then you've found the union of Purusha and Prakriti, where soul comes together with nature, but where nature is the bond slave and the soul's the master, not the other way around. And that's why I wanted to show you this other chart. I think there's one more chart here, chant rather, which I might have already quoted. But there's more to it. In my Father's mansion there are many chambers, abiding places, homes of rest and peace and sojourn. I always wondered what the rest of that chant was, so I looked it up. He actually said homes of rest and peace and sojourn. That's how it's interpreted in today's Bible. So some beings go into these kingdoms of heaven within to rest. Some go to get peace, and some like to travel. They want to explore every chamber in my Father's mansion. See? And you'll find your ancestors in one section of that mansion, you'll find the gods and goddesses, and you'll find the angels in another, and you'll find the great rishis and teachers in another, and they're all gradated by level of particle. Some particles being more dense, some particles being more refined. when you found out that everything exists of atomic particles, that should lead you to the conclusion that this is empty, that this is change. It's changed so fast that my mind can't even comprehend it. And somewhere in there, my consciousness, my intelligence, and my senses got together and made that change congeal into an object. And when I go to sleep tonight, I'll dissolve it. And then I'll reconstruct it again in the morning, along with 11 billion other people. And that's just in this realm, in this drawer, you see. But in this drawer, there's billions and billions of other souls called angels, celestials, ancestors, and they're continually congealing and dissolving too, you see. All based on this one light that doesn't change, like waves on an ocean. So these realms of peace and sojourn are to be known by you while you're in the physical body. And my point is that knowing the 24 cosmic principles of Samkhya Yoga, which is the centering point of this particular class on dissolving the mind stream, is going to free you as a free sojourner in all of these. You'll come to the end of your life and you say, when Mayak death comes, I will have no fear. That's how Milarepa put it. When Mayak death comes, I will have no fear, because I know all of this is within me. And I can easily give up my form and take on another form. Krishna said, like children outgrowing old sets of clothes and putting on new ones. You see, it's that easy for the soul who's in knowledge of the dynamics, the inner workings of this whole process, however way you point it out or describe it. It's that easy for them to take on and give up bodies consciously. That's the whole point of it, is to do it consciously. Where did all this suffering come from? Even if these souls take on the body consciously, they're still going to suffer here. Have you noticed? Crucified, poisoned, shot with arrows. The avatars all had to suffer, you see. So you're not going to get rid of necessary suffering, but there's way too much unnecessary suffering here going on. And most of it stems from here. If this were placed right, then all of this would be much more right. The world would be a reflection of Brahman, as it is. But you're making it into a prison house of suffering. Maya has got the upper reign, you see, and the soul has fallen back, weak, inept. So it needs to come forward and be bold and fearless again, is how Vivekananda put it. Remember how he'd put it? Jai Vireshwara, Jai Tripurari, Gaye Hamu Sabha, Mahima Teri. Jai Vireshwara, Jai Tripurari, Gaye Hamu Sabha, Mahima Teri. Jai Ho, Vivekananda, Gunjadamu, Mahima Tihari. Jai Ho, Vivekananda, Gunjadamu, Mahima Tihari. Jai Vireshwara, Jai Tripurari, Gaye Hamu Sabha, Mahima Teri. That's written by a Swami in India who's living today. Jai Vireshwara, Jai Tripurari. This is Shiva. Those are names for Shiva. Shiva is fearless. Shiva is stable. Shiva is birthless and deathless. And in fact, Shiva knows how to bring everything into dissolution. We all worship Brahma, creation. We all worship preservation, Vishnu. But then we walk away from Shiva when it's time to dissolve things. That's why we're afraid of death. We're afraid of something that doesn't exist. We're a snake afraid of a frog when he should be having it for dinner. Death is using you as its condiment. It should be the other way around. So then, while you're living, avail yourself of these great dharmic precepts, these teachings, and meditate on them put them into practice, actuate them, realize them in this very lifetime. And then you can call yourself spiritual. Not until. You can call yourself moral, you can call yourself intelligent, call yourself ethical, you can call yourself religious, but you can't call yourself spiritual, I'm sorry. Spirituality has its own teachings, and the Dharma points directly towards them. Many moral and ethical people are going to heaven, but spiritual people have transcended heaven and gone to the one, indivisible reality. They're dissolving back into that ocean of Brahman all the time. And they're the ones that are most equipped to free souls. They will free you. All you have to do is approach them. So that's why you would sing a song like that. You see. Navaragaranjita Khoti Shashi Vinendita Navaragaranjita Khoti Shashi Vinendina Bhul Chamake Arupa Loke Pulaki Shihori Jivana Shintaya Mama Manasahari Chidgana Niranjana. Ever more beauteous and fresh blossoming love that shames the splendor of a million moons. Like lightning gleams the glory of his form, filling the soul with deep joy and sweet ecstasy. On and on goes the song like that. Trilokyanas Sanyal wrote that. So he's talking about this Ishvara, getting a glimpse of this Ishtam, or Isha. In India they called Christ Isha. It means the chosen one. So when he came to India, which he was supposed to have done, they recognized him. I was in India before, in my 20s, you see, and I had long hair and a full beard, very skinny. And Swamis came up to me and said, "It's Christmas time, can we put you on the altar and worship you?" Really? You're kidding. And I said, "No, I'm not ready for that." He said, "But you look like Christ." And I said, "Well, it's not enough just to look like him." So they knew about Christ in India, Isha, the chosen one. So that's Ishvara to them, that's the chosen ideal, and that is the subtlest form. That's the form that you will find here, you see, really on top of the whole chest of drawers. Everything causal, go back into a formless state. And then you'll see Ishvara or Ishvari, goddess, the great god or the great goddess, presiding over that whole realm, you see, all the seeds. She tends all those seeds. Her name is Saraswati, or the oldest name for Divine Mother in any scripture in the world, in the Rig Veda, is Umavati, the goddess of the eternal snow mountains, or Himavat, after the Himalayas. She was born in the eternal snow mountains. So that is the purveyor of all of these three worlds, as they talk about. I think that's all the quotes there. I did reference the 5 sheaths, which are very Vedantic, but we'll look at dissolving the mind stream into Vedanta either next week or the week after. We're going to stick a little bit to Samkhya right now. And to do that, let me, in the time remaining, show you once again, although the people in this room haven't seen it that often, but in Portland and San Francisco recently I did show this way of synopsing all of these 24 cosmic principles into 5 main laws that if you read them and memorize them, then you'll sort of have a full reckoning of what Samkhya means to us philosophically, spiritually, and cosmologically too. My copy here. in the process of neutralizing karmas and samskaras, you all know what samskaras are? They're impressions in the mind, not in the brain, but in the mind. Brain and mind are two different things in India. So they're impressions in the mind that have been driven there, imprinted there, impressed there because of actions done over and over again in previous lifetimes. If the Western psychologists would go this direction, because Jung and Freud, they never had Hindu people on their therapy table. If they had of, they would have sat up and said, "You're talking as if I've only lived one lifetime, but I've lived many lifetimes, Mr. Freud." So the samskaras are impressions that make the baby into what the baby is going to be. You see, the baby isn't a clean slate. It's either an axe murderer or it's a genius, you see. What's it going to be? It's got all these mixed samskaras in its psyche, in its subtle mind, in this drawer, you see. And some of those are unresolved. If it wants to be really, really good, that's not a very good samskara. If it's going to be really, really bad, that's a horrible samskara. But good samskaras aren't necessarily not what you want to end up with. You want no samskaras. You want no impressions in your mind. Because when you dissolve the mind stream is when you'll come upon those impressions. And you'll see them as having been watered from last lifetime. Why do you think there are so many camels born? Because the camel eats thorny bushes, even though its gums bleed. It likes the taste of thorny bushes, so it eats them over and over again. So when it dies, its camel psyche goes looking for hosts where it can eat more thorny bushes. It's not going to be born to humans or dogs. It's going to find a mother and a male and female camel, you see, so it can get more thorny bushes. And the same is true of the crack baby. See? It's not going to be born with good parents. It just developed a desire for cocaine. It has an impression for cocaine, so there it's born with the kind of parents that will give it what it wants. It's all desire-based. It's a desire-based realm. Even if you want to look into the Buddhist teachings, you see, that first world, that first chest of drawers, is the sphere of desire. The second chest of drawers is the sphere of desireless form, your thoughts, right? And the third is the sphere of formlessness, the causal realm. So if wherever you look, this happens to be Zen Buddhist, wherever you look, you'll find this triputi of the three worlds, the three bodies, the three matras of Om, the three states of your awareness, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. You'll find those as a major component of teaching in the Dharma. And once you get those under wraps, then the whole thing starts to make sense to you. That is, you're trying to go from earth to formlessness, right? In one meditation. You see. Forget the 49 days. I'm just going to get samadhi today, you see. Oh, I had it. I was concentrating, my mind went blank. That must be samadhi. You see. But everything in between you don't know. Sri Ramakrishna said, if you could possibly jump from the lowest step to the highest step, if you were a very good jumper, then you would still always have doubt about what those middle steps consisted of. Are they made of the same stuff as the bottom step and the higher step? Are they all made of brick and mortar and lime dust? Or maybe those middle steps were made of something else. Maybe gold. I better go back and check. So people are always going back to check. It's called rebirth. And when they have any given birth, they'll fill in a little of that knowledge, a little bit more of that knowledge. Hopefully they'll pass it on to their children. But in order to get it all in one fell swoop, you're going to have to fill in every step, every chamber in God's mansion. You're going to have to know that it exists and what it's made of and the dynamics by which it works. Because when you take your mantra and you go into meditation and you get to that next level of your consciousness, there's a guardian there. And he's going to say, you may not pass. And then you're going to say, but I have this mantra and I have this knowledge. And he'll check you out. Okay, you may pass. And you're having a beautiful dream about your grandfather who died, you see. I was talking with him. It's not just a dream. He still lives, see. and you remember his form, and he remembers yours. But without that bijam, that seed that you got from the Guru, you couldn't have penetrated through that level. And most people never do. Waking state is it for them. You might have noticed. Everyone lives in the body, in the waking state, in matter, with objects and pleasure. That's it for them. It's called a materialist. They don't even want to know if there's anything more or different. And they can be very smart, these materialists, very clever. They can know a lot more than you do about this world. But they don't have the slightest inkling about the kingdom of heaven within them, or what Christ was talking about when he even said that. So this then behooves you to begin to familiarize yourself in meditation with all levels of your own consciousness and spend time there in meditation. Open this inner eye, because if you do, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Yeah. I didn't get very far in that quote, did I? In the process of neutralizing karmas and samskaras, now you know a little bit more of what they are, the recognition of the distinction between soul and mind occurs, cited as the difference between Purusha and Prakriti in Sankhya Yoga. This key insight is not meant to be left in the atmosphere of duality, but rather to be taught in the light of Advaitic practice and realization. So you don't just leave it, oh, there's soul, there's nature, I understand that, goodbye. But you take it into the realm of Advaitic practice. Advaita, Vedanta, sadhana. In other words, you're going to test out everything your teacher told you. You're going to look into the scriptures and test what the seers said in those great non-dual scriptures. And that testing ground is going to be you, your mind, your consciousness, and the levels that exist inside of you. And you can take as much time as you want to examine those. But if you do the 24 cosmic principle meditation in dissolving the mind, it might take you a few weeks or a few months to do it back and forth. You see, you're actually blazing a trail that was once blazed. You go into the forest, and some people had been walking for a long time, you see. Then they didn't walk that trail anymore, and it began to get overgrown again. But you can see where they walked, you see. It's a samskara. It's a nerve channel, you see, something that was used. So now you go in there with a machete and you hack it down, and you march through it again. That's what you have to do with this meditation of the Mindstream practice every day for weeks or months, until finally you know your way back to the source and you know your way out. You can go up and down the amber stairs of birth and death as easily as you like. Sri Aurobindo said, I went up and down the amber stairs of birth and death, he said. And there are souls who are very proficient at that. I say all that to tell you that in a meditation, after you've mastered that, you can do it in 2 minutes. You can go up and down the amber stairs of birth and death in 2 minutes. You can sit 5 elements into 5 senses, 5 senses into 5 gross elements, 5 gross elements into 5 gross senses, 5 gross senses into 5 subtle senses, all of those 10 or those 20 into the mind via the prana, all of those into my intellect, all of those into the great mind. Hello, God with form. Goodbye, God with form. There's Om humming in me, and now I immerse myself in Om. I immerse it all into Om. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. It has all come from the source. Here I am at the source. In 2 minutes I've done it, you see. And there were no impediments in the way as before. I didn't get to water and all of a sudden found that I had drowned in another lifetime, so I didn't know water yet because I was afraid of it. I didn't get to ether and all of a sudden think, oh, ether just means physical space, when there are 5 ethers, like little Russian dolls inside of each other. See, there's the space of physical objects, there's a space of my ancestors, there's a space of the celestials, there's a space of the gods and goddesses, and then there's a space of the rishis and the Trinity. 5 different ethers that the greater percentage of humanity knows nothing about. They think there's one ether. When the atomic particle stopped into the subatomic particle, They had taken something that was outside and gone further out. They weren't going inside the object. They were inside the particle. The object is further out than you can possibly go. There's nothing there. It's changing at a billionth of a second. It's substanceless. When we talk about going inward, we're talking about going into a different kind of particle where the atomic particle ends, the pranic particle begins, and that's where my ancestors are. See? So I must trace that energy. Matter to energy, energy to thought, and thought to intelligence, and intelligence to the Trinity. You can do it in 5 steps like that. Another 5 to contemplate. So let's take this wisdom of Purusha and Prakriti and let's begin to look at it in the way the original father of Samkhya Yoga wanted us to, thousands of years ago. And this is 5, 6, 7,000 millennia old. So we can't really say we've made a lot of progress. See? Look at it from a Western standpoint. We've lost a lot of perennial wisdom. If something's eternal, it stays eternal. And the covering power just gets a hold of it, you see. And the distorting power on top of that. Pretty soon people can't get to the original anymore. They're presuming far too much. So these 5 laws then are meant to give it to you in a simpler way. First, your soul is called Atman. When we say soul, we capitalize it, because a lowercase soul means mind to us. You're talking about the soul that goes from heaven to earth to hell. You're talking about the mind. It's the mind that does that. It dreams. And this is a dream. Right now, you're sitting here. And then the dream tonight is dream number 2, as Ramana Maharshi said. And so you're just having 2 different kinds of dreams with form. We've already proved that form isn't real. So why are you so attached to it? Just use it. All forms are empty. That would include your body, by the way. Consisting of 5 elements, like everything else. So your soul with a capital S is all-pervasive. It doesn't have to move. See, it's already there. You could think, I'm going to go find the soul. But before you had the thought, the soul was already there. See, faster than the fastest, higher than the highest, lower than the lowest, slower than the slowest. As the Upanishads call it, you see. It infills everything. It's like Sri Ramakrishna said, it's like sweetness in sugarcane juice. Can you separate wetness from water? He said. Whiteness from milk, a jewel from its luster, it's inseparable. See? That's the diamond soul, the Buddhists would say. See? Om Mani Padme Hum. It's the diamond of consciousness. It's got its own light. Svayam Jyoti. So when we say Atman, we say the immutable, all-pervasive soul, not the mind soul that dreams from heaven to earth to hell. It's different from and ever free of nature. When Buddha did his 49-day meditation under the Bodhi tree, he separated Purusha from Prakriti. He knew his Buddha nature. Tathagata Garbha, it's called. A mass of consciousness. Garbha, mass. It's an indeterminate mass of consciousness, this light. So he separated, in his meditation, he came upon this joining place of Purusha and Prakriti, nature and soul. And he separated himself from nature, from form. Nature is form. He went formless. Formless Dabhaga, you see. He's gone forever. And that's how he separated himself from his ancestors, so he could come back into the body later and go and tell his wife and tell his son. When he left the palace of King Sakya, he was a great prince, right? When he left the palace, he had named his little boy Rahula, chain around my neck. This sort of shows you the mindset of the man already, even before enlightenment. I'm going to call you chain around my neck, son. Let's just tell it how it is, you see. So why did he go away? Out of selfishness? No, to get free so he could come back and help others, because the world is full of people trying to free others when they're not free themselves. You have to know the Dharma inside out. Sri Ramakrishna said, you can take a little razor knife and kill yourself so easily. See? But if you want to kill another person, you need a sword, a spear, a shield, a dagger, an Uzi, whatever you use, you see. Other people don't want to be killed. In other words, he's saying, to kill your own ego is not that hard, but to kill the egos of others, forget it. And it's even worse with the rich. See? Easier for a camel to get through an eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to get to heaven. So if you're attached to form, name, wealth, and so forth, it's going to be that much more covering power for you to filter through, that much more for the mind to dissolve when it comes time to have to dissolve. And that time is death, you see. And when people don't have the wherewithal to return to the source at death, then it's recycling time, you see. They think they're a form, they die as a form, they come back as a form. So when Buddha saw this, he saw that it's ever free from nature, he said, then I am free from nature. Now, 550 BC was Lord Buddha, before Christ. Now, 140 years after Christ, Patanjali, the father of yoga, looked at Buddha's teachings and said, I'm going to call that Kaivalya. There's a Sanskrit word for that. Kaivalya means penultimate freedom. It means that the soul finally sees that all of this has come out of it. All of nature has come out of the soul. And when it saw that, it realized that nature was different in nature than the soul. That nature is insentient and the soul is sentient. That nature is form and the soul is formless. And therefore I can't be any of the things that I project. It'd be sort of like, a wizard, you see, with a magic wand, creating a world, getting so enchanted with it that he goes into it, but he drops his wand outside, you see. And now he's in this world of his own design, and he's trapped there and he can't get out. That's the way people are. A world of their own design. They have everything they could possibly want. All of this tells them that everything is within them. They don't need riches and wealth. All they need is to realize that all of this lies within me. All the kingdoms of heaven are within me, and then I can be free. I can take it or leave it. Bodies, worlds, wealth, whatever. Nothing will bind me ever again. Have I said enough about the first law? Now let's go to the second law. All of nature has come out of the soul, and as it does, no change takes place in the soul. Now that's an important add-on. That is, I've talked around that already. But this second little bit of knowledge in it, that no change takes place in the soul, is very important. There's a teaching in India called parinama and aparinama. Parinama is everything that changes, and aparinama is that one thing that does not change. So that one light shining, all else shines. By its light, everything is lit up. Everything is made radiant. So that one Atman, sometimes we call it Brahman, or Almighty Father, or Buddha nature, or Allah, is that one unchangeable verity. And everything that has come out of it is change. So to make that one line of demarcation, make that one separation, is the most healthy separation you can make in all of your lifetimes. And when you do, you get Kaivalya. You get freedom from nature. Now you can manipulate nature. It manipulated you before. Turned you into a fetus. Turned you into a fool. Turned you into an ignorant person at death. And it's doing it like scum covers a pond. It's not out to get you. It's not a sentient evil. It's not a devil somewhere with a pitchfork. It's the nature of the thing to cover. See? And it's your nature to uncover it. When you find your true nature, you will start the uncovering process. That's dissolving the mind stream as we're talking about it today. That's your business. You're Sherlock Holmes, you see, of the spiritual world now. The game's afoot, and you need the first clue. First clue is from the sense of smell, earth has come. From the sense of taste, water has come. See? And when you meditate upon that, you'll see, where is water without taste? Where is earth without smell? Where's fire, see, without intelligence? And then you'll start to put those pieces together in a nice stream, and then you'll just dissolve them with one stroke of the sword, one stroke of her sword. Sri Ramakrishna said, child builds this massive castle on the beach. That's creation. Then he plays with it and puts soldiers in it and various things and has make-believe wars, you see. But the most fun he ever had was at dusk when the tides come in. He just stands back, ha ha, you see, and watches the thing just get demolished. That's the most fun of the day, you see. So that's the dissolution process, and you should be able to do it just like a child, just like an innocent child would do it, knowing that it's all eternal. It'll all get constructed again. 400,000 people can die in a tidal wave, see, and you're supposed to stand back and say, 4,000 ego bubbles just popped in the ocean of consciousness for some reason, and now they're going to reform again, if they want to. And nothing happens. So this is what the great philosopher would say. No change takes place in the soul whatsoever with all this apparent transformation going on. Parinama. Nature is very good at making you believe that there's transformation, but there is no transformation in the soul, in that soul, Atman, none whatsoever. Swami Vivekananda put it very nice. He said, the soul picks up the book of nature and reads it page by page, finishes the book and puts it down. Did it go anywhere? See? So the soul is intelligent, knowledge. It just wanted to reacquaint itself with the laws of nature, you see, and the way Mother works things. So she just picked up the book, read it, put it down. It's still its same self. It always was, always will be, never will not be that one self. Now this is in a description of oneness that is not a New Age cliche, you see. Not a New Age cliche anymore. We know this oneness is called Advaita Vedanta. It's not a numerical oneness. It's an all-pervasive oneness. Or call it not two-ness, if you like. It's the absence of duality. That is, virtue and vice, pleasure and pain, life and death, as we chanted at the first chant of this class, are dualities, and they will be dissolved, like everything else, into that one source, not two-ness, Buddha nature. Now, third law, as nature emerges from the soul, it does so as mental projection rather than as actual creation. So let's replace the words creation, preservation, and destruction with projection, sustenance, and withdrawal. That's my vote, you see. Because then we'll be calling the thing as it really is. Everything is a projection of the mind. Now we take the kids to the theater, you see, pictures are dancing on the screen, point out the projector to them, see, that's where it comes from. And there's explosions in the movie, and there's pathos and tears and so forth. Take them up afterwards and feel the screen. Was there any rips from the explosion? Was there any dampness from the tears? Brahman, Atman, is that screen, and the mind is the projector. And all those phenomena are being projected constantly on the screen without anything ever happening. And if you understand this by this simple metaphor, then you understand the mantra, everything is, or nothing is not. Nothing doesn't exist. There's no such thing as nothing. It's all full, full, full. And now you have to take it a little deeper and say, it's apparently transforming, but it's not actually transforming. I must be the witness of all change. So if I stand back from the phenomena, then I'm the nomenon. I'm not the phenomenon anymore. I'm the nomenon. And now I can dance the dance of the nomenon with Mother Kali. And I can participate in that without ever becoming embroiled in it whatsoever. I can associate it with it, but I cannot attach to it. Or if I do attach to it, I must know how to detach immediately, if I do attach. If I get involved, I must know how to disinvolve myself. The greater souls can do that. The lesser realized souls will not even touch it. See? No. Will not go there. See? Not going back to earth again. So that's an important distinction. So you've heard all of this before, but we're adding in little extra bits of wisdom. No change takes place at all in the soul, and it's not creation, it's projection. Let's change the words to reflect the truth. Creation, we don't believe in a God of creation. We believe in a mind that projects. And if you say the word God to me, or Buddha nature, or Allah, or Almighty Father, that means to me formless perfection. It has nothing to do whatsoever with any process, any transformation. Let's leave that sacrosanct as it is. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, good and bad smells pass in the air, but the air just carries them and lets them go. Or poison is in the snake, but the snake doesn't die. He had all sorts of ways of saying that about this ultimate perfection called Brahman, we call Brahman in my tradition, and how good and bad insinuate itself upon it, but never change it whatsoever when they do, and disappear into it as they came out of it. Like water into wetness and water. Let's take the fourth. We have 10 minutes. The soul, Atman, has no eternal relationship with nature. Has an internal relationship with nature. If it identifies with nature, there is suffering. But if it only associates with nature, it sports freely. So there you have the more adept soul. So this is not the teaching of, I renounce everything and devil take the hindmost. I'm getting freedom, you guys can stay around and suffer all you want. See? Mm-hmm. This is a teaching of how to transform the poison of relativity into the nectar of reality. We've talked enough about relativity in science. If there's an opposite to everything, then relativity also has to have an opposite. That would be called reality. But reality is not a form, reality is not an energy, and reality is not a thought. Those are all found in these chests of drawers. These things recycle. You don't. That is, if you think you're a body, then you'll think you recycle. But if you know yourself to be the eternal soul that's birthless and deathless and motionless and static, then you watch the process. And then even when you get into the body, you're still watching the process. You're not getting embroiled in it. And therefore you can be of the greatest aid to humanity, just by your very mere presence. The great souls, they just went egoless. Tell me what you know. Well, I don't know anything. Don't ask me. Then they go into nirvana. What happened? Oh, a salt doll just walked into an ocean. You get these little hints, you see. Salt doll wanted to measure the depths of the ocean. So it walked in there, but there wasn't anyone left to come out. It dissolved in its own essence. So that's dissolving the mind stream, right? If you do come out, you'll come out like Buddha, speechless. Until, a few days later, he's began to articulate a little bit about what nirvana is, and how you get beyond the ancestors, and how all of this is empty, shunyata. And then that's going to live for 2,500 years, down to your very lifetime. See, started off in India. Buddha was a Hindu man. Started off in India, then it started spreading. Tibet, China, Dzogchen, Tibetan Buddhism, Burma, Ceylon, 32 generations over to Japan. Zen. You see, it just spread out. There's no phenomena like Buddhism ever in the whole history of religion. It spread without lifting a sword. The most beautiful spread of religion we've ever seen right out of India. And that's 2,500 years later. Here you are sitting in the Dharma teachings of the Buddha, you see. And with the other Indian seers of which he is arm in arm, hand in hand. With the 5 minutes remaining, we will go on to the 5th and final law. Nature has manifested and unmanifested sides, by which knowing, the soul can remain free of cycles of birth and death and ignorance. Manifested, tip of the iceberg, and unmanifested, bulk of the iceberg. See, everything here, great mind, intellects, ego, mind, the 5 subtle elements in dream, the senses, and the 5 gross elements out here in the world, all those first 2 chests of drawers, worlds of external and internal, mind and matter. See? Underneath is all this seed in potential. This is all formless matter, all worlds, all things, all objects in potential. Nothing ever dies. It just melts into the ocean of consciousness and adds on to the bulk. And that way the iceberg is eternal. It just keeps rising and melting, adding on, falling. And will stay solid that way. But the unmanifested side of Prakriti is this 3rd drawer called the causal realm, or karana jagat. The word karana means cause. When you find your way there, you've found the ultimate cause of all things. You know where they are. They're in seed form. They didn't die. Your ancestors didn't die. The gods and goddesses won't die. Nothing dies. It just goes back into potential. So therefore, dinosaurs will come back, Elvis will come back, God forbid. See? Everything will come back because it's just stored back inside the bulk of the iceberg. Have I impressed that enough on you? Now spread the word, you see, spread it around. Don't let people talk about death anymore, glibly. What do you mean death? What are you talking about? Nothing dies. It just goes into self-storage. Now next time you pass down the freeway and see that, take that as a metaphor. It's an analogy. Yes, so he says, sancharaha prati sancharaha, and we looked at that. So last quote here then, when the mind recognizes the stark distinction between consciousness and matter, between sentiency and insentiency, it then perceives that all of nature, name, form, time, space, and causality, is its own self-projected maya, and it enters what Patanjali calls kaivalya, separation from nature. I'm getting a divorce from form. I'm going to realize myself as formless essence, you see. And everything that was in my way, everything that took form, I'm going to dissolve it. Because I can just reconstruct it again, anytime I like. So the predicament of modern man then, everything has come out of him, everything is there, he loses it and thinks it's lost, begins to brood, suffers, and goes to death in ignorance. And all the time, everything that he lost was always within him, always will be within him. Do not fall into that predicament. Come forth, declare yourself to be free, eternal Atman. I am Atman, all abiding. I am Atma Brahma, say it. I am Atma Brahma. I am Atma Brahma. Or Prajnanam Brahman. Prajnanam Brahman. This self is pure intelligence. Or Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi. That thou art. That soul thou art. And Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. Glad to meet you. And you too are Brahman. Be thee perfect as thy Father in heaven is perfect. And don't worry, Mr. and Mrs. Christian, when we say I am God, we don't mean this body-mind mechanism. How can that be God? That's a mere reflection of God. We mean the perfect, ever-perfect soul, Atman, within us, which is within all beings and all things, but which is equal in quality and quantity, but not equal in degree. There's more Atman realized in you than in the chair or in the bug. So that one Atman in everything, unaffected by anything, but in a realized soul, fully realized. That is, in the fish, well, let's say, put it this way, in the plant, consciousness is dreaming. See? In the insect, consciousness is partially awake. In the animal, half awake. In the human, awake. And in the seer, fully awake. See? So now, knowing about that, and knowing about all the laws of the cosmological process that Lord Kapila wanted to equip you with in this journey, and knowing the rules of how nature and soul work together, then you may walk out of this classroom in a fine and fettled state, fully in remembrance of your true nature, and working hard for the rest of your life to realize it in its original condition. So here let's end with a chant. Om Sato, Om Sato Ma Sadgamoya, Damaso Ma Joitir Gamoya, Mrichor Ma Amritam Gamoya, Abira Abira Mayeti, Rudrayate Dakshinamukam, Tenamam Pahinicham, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lead us from darkness to light, from lower truth to higher truth, from the unreal to the real, and from the illusion of death to eternal life. Reach us through and through, O Lord and Mother, with thy sweet and benign presence. Om, peace, peace, peace. May peace be unto us, may peace be unto all. Om